guys, what's up? By the title you could tell this isn't a car video. This is a video on how to terminate CAT6 cable, Ethernet cable. It could be Cat5e, which most people don't use anymore, but it's still in a lot of houses today. I'm doing this video just to provide some information. I've been in the IT world, AV side of things for the last 20 odd years, and I have tons and tons of experience wiring cables. I've done thousands and thousands of these ends, putting ends on, doing keystone jacks and things like that. I just wanted to make a video and pass this information along. I know there's tons of these out there, but hey, why not add another video to the YouTube rabbit hole? So there are different types of Cat6 cables. We're just going to be taking care of or doing the Cat6. It's unshielded, it's called riser, it's not plenum, and it's solid core. There are lots of different types of Cat6 cables out there, different quality, things like that. I could go into that if you guys want that. Otherwise, there's plenty of information on the internet or on YouTube or wherever you want to look for what type of cable you should use in your home or in your business. I will list below all the tools I've used, all the product I've used, and my experience with them. I've used tons of different manufacturer RJ45 ends, and these are the best ones out there that I find are the easiest to use, get the most professional look, and I haven't had any issues with them. They are expensive though. They're not the cheapest one around, and you can't just go down to your hardware store and buy these. I'm going to go over the tools that I use in the trade, things that I've found that work long term as far as tools go. Some you could get cheaper tools and they just break. There are more expensive tools as well. I also suggest, if you're new at putting ends on cables, even if you've been doing it for a while, to test these cables when you're done, especially if you're doing long runs, end to end in a home or a business. You want to test these cables. That way you don't have any issues later on, or if you're not installing the equipment, you don't get a call later on, hey, your cable doesn't work, and then you have to come back, and that always sucks. I do have different testers here. We have the cheapy end, which I do use these. These serve its purpose. And then we get to the more expensive stuff. And there's actually even more expensive stuff than this unit that I don't currently have. And those tools, generally, if it's required, it'll be in the contract. If you're doing this job under contract, that you have to certify a cable. Generally, you need what they call a certifier, and you can rent those because they're so expensive. I mean, they're from $10,000 to $20,000, just depending on what you need to certify. This is just a simple, hey, you know, all my pairs are good. I'll show you how this works. This one gets a little more involved. It will show you your pairs if they're crossed, the color codes, what color or what's in each pin, the length of the cable. This will also tell you if it's connected to a switch or something, where it's at. And this is what they call a qualifier. So I could send data down this, a certain amount of data down the cable to test to make sure it qualifies. Not certified, this is just under a certifier. It tells you, hey, this cable can handle this much throughput or data down this pipe. So these are great. They're a little bit cheaper than a certifier. Not much, but they are cheaper. These really work well. Sorry, I'm going off on tangents. If you're doing shielded twisted pair or shielded Cat6 or Cat6A cable, let's say you want to send video content down that Cat6, these are really good to have, as video content sometimes is very finicky on you know, the cable itself. So these work wonders. Tools, again, I'm going to have them listed below. I'll have links to them, and you could purchase them and whatnot, or find them somewhere else. We do have the stripper. I'll show you how to use this. Crimpers. These aren't that expensive. They're, I think, 30 bucks or something. I've gone through many different companies and different pairs, and these seem to be the most reliable. So I'll show you down there. There's more expensive ones and there's cheaper ones, and all of them I've gone through. I always go back to these because I rarely have crimping issues with these. They do make them with replaceable dies and things like that. You could go that route. That's when you spend a ton of money on these things. Telecom scissors, screwdriver. I'll show you what this is for. And then of course you have the RJ45 jack, and then what they call a load bar. And we'll get into more detail on this. And then also your CAT6 cable. I also have to show you a shielded RJ45, which we will not be using. And it doesn't take one of these tools. It takes a kind of like a die pliers. I don't have it with me today, but maybe sometime in the future I could show you how to do shielded ends on these. Same with keystones. We could do shielded keystones or regular keystones. I could show you all that. I've done tons of those things over the years. All right, let's get to the overhead. Hopefully this comes through and you guys will be able to see this. I hope. This is the first time I've done this, so it's not a in-garage video. It's, you know, kind of close up. We'll go ahead and fold the cable. Now, I don't know if you guys know, on these cables, they actually have the length, how many feet they are, stuff like that, so that helps too. I used to not pay attention to these things, but as time has gone on and I get older and wiser, I pay attention to how many feet, especially when I'm pulling multiple runs in houses and stuff like that. Alright, it doesn't have to be that long. Again, I'm just showing you end to end. This could be, you know, 100 feet long or whatnot through a house. Well, if you're doing it that way, then I wouldn't use these. I would use keystones. That's a little more professional. Alright. We'll go ahead and use this. And the part we're going to use is this middle piece. And you could do adjustments. The way it comes from the store, it's fine. You don't need to adjust anything. The only time adjustments happen is with this. It's used for RG6, coaxial cable stripping. I always tell people, especially when you're beginning, a lot of people I see always make these short. Just go ahead and make it long and only go one time around. Like, that's it. There's that part. We'll get our scissors. Trim that part off. And then I tend to just split it and kind of pull a little bit. Just like that. Now, get the trash out of here. The color code that used to be used was called was the A, and it was they switched the blue and green around, and you could do what an AB crossover cable. Nowadays, you don't really need a crossover cable. Some instances you do need a crossover cable, but most of the time, the switch could actually auto-negotiate, and if it's an accident like a crossover, it could actually, the switch could actually still use it and send data down it. In this case, we're going to use the B standard. That's been used, I don't know, we've been using the B standard for, I've always used the B standard. Sometimes I'll go into a place and find that they're using A, but most of the time it's the B standard, and which will be orange, white, orange, green, white, blue, blue, white, green, brown, white, brown. I know, it's a lot, but after a while you memorize it. It's part of your life. we're going to go ahead and untwist this just a little bit. And then this screwdriver, see how it has this nice long piece? We're just going to stick it in here and unwind it. There's your orange, white, orange. Next we're going to do green, white. Untwist it a little bit. Orange, white, orange, green, white. Next is going to be blue. I'll do it this way. Orange, white, orange, green, white. Blue, like so. Then you have green. Then you have brown, white, brown. All right. We'll stop there. And we'll move to the RJ45 jack. Get one of each. We'll get a load bar in the end. Here's what they look like. Now, they do make these types of jacks where when you put the cable in all the way and then you snip it off here, those are no-no. If you ever read the manual on a lot of Ethernet equipment, they tell you never to use that type of connector. Contractors use it because it's quick, fast, and easy, but it could damage your equipment, especially if it's not cut straight, or you know, the lines could touch wrong, or the piece of equipment you're plugging into is not designed to handle something like that, and you could ruin that piece of equipment. I highly suggest staying away from that stuff. Hey, it may look easy, they sell a ton of those things, but for a professional, we don't use those. And if a professional does use them, stay away from them. That's just not the right way, not the right tool, and not to be used. So again, don't use those ones where you slide the cable through and it comes through here, and then you just snip it off and crimp it, or the toolless ones. There's a lot of toolless stuff out there. They have their place, but as a professional, I highly suggest not using that garbage. All right, the load bar, if you look, has this little lip, all right? And then here's this. So when we build cables, this is the top for me. This load bar with the little lip will go in like this. Hopefully you guys could see that. So this little lip is the top. And it goes in like that. And if you look at this, I don't know if you guys could see it. You could see where this would slide in. There's a little lip in there, and this piece goes right in there snugly. All right, hopefully that helps. Let's get back to this. Orange, white, orange, green, white, blue, blue, white, green, brown, white, brown. My suggestion here, hopefully this helps. Again, I'm gonna try to go slow. I've done so many of these, I just do it without even thinking about it. So this may take you guys a little bit longer, or you have to slow the video down or whatnot. Again, make it long. I remember watching students do this, and they would cut them, do them really short, and I was just like, there's no need for that. If you plan ahead, especially if you're making patch cables or need to put an end on it, you know, give yourself the extra space so you can make these longer. It just saves time. It doesn't save time, it's just frustration. I usually like to, once I have it separated, I'll hold it like that. Orange, white, orange, green, white, blue, blue, white, green, brown, white, brown. And then I kind of just do my little magic. Like that. So they're a little tight bundle. And then I go ahead and cut this. And then where my thumb is, this is the top. So the top from here, orange, white, orange, green, white, blue, blue, white, green, brown, white, brown. Which means this load bar with that little hook at the end of it will go on top. Wiggle this through. You don't need to push it too tight, but just, you know, have it somewhat nice looking. Like that. And then you go ahead and you cut the end off. Like that. Don't worry if some stuff comes up. You're fine. Doesn't have to be perfect. Now we will go ahead and put the cable in. We'll kind of wiggle it. If you want, they do make boots you could put on here. You do it beforehand. You don't have to. Sometimes boots get in the way. Next, you want to make sure all the cables are, or not all the cables, but all the copper is up. So if you look at it, you can kind of see it, hopefully. You can look at the sides that do it. You can look underneath. And again, it's orange, white, orange, green, white, blue, blue, white, green, brown, white, brown. And if you look, the solid colors will be on top and the striped colors will be underneath. That's also help. I should have gone a little slower. I'll do it on the next one. So once we're at where we want, we'll use this tool, kind of push a little bit. This one's done. Let's go ahead and do the other side. Again, give yourself some space. Again, orange, white, orange. Green, white. Oops. There we go. Let's go ahead and match these up again. I'm so used to doing it. I just automatically put my thumb here and do it without even thinking about it. Orange, white, orange. Green, white. Blue. Blue, white. Green. Brown, white, brown. And then I kind of, see, I don't like how that's sticking out a little bit, so I'm going to try to get a little extra cable here so it looks prettier. Again, put my thumb again right here. Orange, white, orange, green, white, blue, blue, white, green, brown, white, brown. We'll check it again. Orange, white, orange, green, white, blue, blue, white, green, brown, white, brown. I know I sound like a broken record. Check again. Orange, white, orange, green, white, blue, blue, white, green, brown, white, brown. This hook piece goes up. And this is the part I forgot to show you on the other one. Now if you look at it, all the solid colors up on top and the striped colors on the bottom. You could check it again: orange, white, orange, green, white, blue, blue, white, green, brown, white, brown. Hopefully that helps you guys. Go ahead and cut this off. Looks just like that. Check the ends. I like to go twice. You can tell this, I've used this quite a bit. I'm missing the back. We'll start with the cheap one. We want to test this cable now. Here's the cable. And if you're making a lot of these, I usually, when I was doing it, I would check every 5 or 10 cables just to make sure I'm doing it right. Once you've done enough of these, you're pretty consistent. If you're starting out, I would suggest test every single cable. I've watched other people do it, and they forget to crimp this down. I've seen that. I've seen some weird stuff before, but if you do it enough times, it'll just become second nature. Let's go ahead and test with the cheap cable or cheap tester. It works by, we'll slow this down a little bit. It just sends a signal across the line for each pair, not each pair, but each cable or each strand. And we won't have ground because this isn't shielded. Let's go ahead and connect it. I have to add something I completely missed and forgot to talk about it. And I see this a lot with people that are starting or beginning to make cables. The sheathing or the outside sheathing on this, I see a lot of times when people are making these cables, especially when they're new, is where it crimps down. They're not putting the sheathing far enough in here. Like it's bad. The wire will hang out here and they'll crimp it down or whatnot. That sheathing has to be, as far forward as you can without pulling the cables back. You got to be careful too. If you push this in too hard, it'll actually retract the twisted pair. So that's why you need to check, to make sure the twisted pair copper is all the way up. But you also need to get that sheathing or the outside housing as far up as possible. So when you crimp it down, it locks it in there. But you'll see a lot of new people or inexperienced people, this sheathing, they'll make it super short. It'll end up somewhere like around here. This blue sheath, this blue piece, the outer housing, it'll end up back here or whatnot, and then over time it'll just pull out, and then all of a sudden your copper cable, is showing from here. The sheathing stops here and it's all copper and it looks like crap, and little experience, or they were in a rush or just didn't care. So you got to make sure that housing is pushed, as far as you can. You crimp it down. I've gotten this even farther up, but in here, just as long as it's in this area and it's a little bit past the crimp point where this gets pressed down, this pushes down on the cable, you kind of see it indented, then you're good. But you need the space. Even a little bit higher up would be better for this long term, but you got to do this. This right here is usually when I see an amateur versus a professional make these, as you could tell from just this alone. Go do it on the remote side. That's fine, the red's fine, because it's not shielded. And technically, this is all you need. If you're just in there to wire the place up or the house or the business up, these work great just to make sure your ends are correct. You can even do it when you do keystone punch downs. If you have a patch cable that you know works really well on each end, you can just put a patch cable on here into the keystone and then this on the other side into the keystone and test your keystones that way as well, because sometimes punch down on keystones don't go well. I've had it before where some punches it doesn't go down very well and you have to fix it. So I suggest testing. Again, we could get into the more expensive unit, and this unit you could do fiber as well. I just don't have the piece for it. We're going to do RJ45. Go ahead and plug them in. One on this end, one on this end. Oh, it would help to turn this on, wouldn't it? There we go. Tests. And I'm just going to do both. So what this is going to do is do a wire map, tell me the distance or anything's crossed or everything looks good, and then it's going to send data down that cable to make sure it qualifies. That's why this is called a qualifier. Run. Again, the qualifier helps a lot in the AV world more than the data world. I mean, the switch could auto-negotiate if there's a bad pair, and it could send it down a different channel if it needs to. Whereas the AV world, they use all the channels a lot of the times, or a lot of all the pairs. Click on wire map. This cable is about 3 feet long, as it tells you the feet. No faults. Again, this isn't shielded, so the S down there doesn't mean much. You could tell what type of cable you're going to do, a crossover, or if it's a CAT6, or what your wiring is. Again, we're doing CAT6 to 568B. So this sent data down this cable, the frames, what it sent down, and it tested with no errors. You could go way deep with these things. I'm just doing basic for you guys right now so you can see what it's doing. This works great too if you're doing a job and you could test each cable that's been run, and then later on you could give that to the customer. Hey, look, all these cables passed, they qualified, things like that. Now if you do a certification, that goes into crazy land, crazy world. All the print ups and the spectrum analysis, those things those are crazy. But this works for the most part, unless they require in your contract that it has to be a certified cable. Then it goes down and you charge people accordingly, because there's a cost and labor involved in doing all that. Here's your cables. I will link below all the parts here, all the tools you see that are used, all the ends and cables and things like that. The wire path, that's contractor. I don't think you could buy that anywhere unless you're a contractor, but CAT6 cable, don't get the cheapest stuff, but you could get expensive stuff too. I mean, it depends on what you want to do or how much you want to spend. I usually look for the middle of the road. You could get 1,000-foot CAT6 riser cable, non-shielded, for I'd say $150, $160 for 1,000 feet of it. Any color you want. There's different color. Again, I could spend a long time going through different colors and what different colors can be used for, like red. A lot of people like to use red for the fire systems, and I use purple for video surveillance systems, things like that. Blue, networking, white could be phone, gray is sometimes AV. So I mean, there's a whole world out there to color coding as well, and sometimes the customer has certain color codes they want to use for certain things. So you just have to, it's a big rabbit hole that you could go down in just cabling alone. Hopefully that was informative for you guys, and if you guys want any other things, I could do keystones, I could do shielded keystones, shielded patch cables, end-to-end cables, speaker cables with banana plugs on the end of it. I mean, the list goes on. I've been doing this for over 20 years, and I've done tons of cable. I could do coaxial cable if you want, with the compression fittings. I can tell you which ends to get for coaxial cables, not the garbage they sell at the box stores. A lot of this stuff has to be planned. If you want the right equipment and tools and things like that, you can't just go down to your hardware store and buy. Generally, some places actually have it, but for the most part, you can't just go down there and get it. You have to plan and order this stuff, and sometimes it could take a while to get the parts you need, and especially like if you need a certain color, you could order it. If you don't find it online, you could contact the company. They probably have the color. It's just, it might not be mainstream, and you can still get it. You just have to request it, and it might take a month to get it. But planning is huge. Any structured wiring, planning is huge. And I'm in the plans for huge buildings, huge college campuses, and for structured wiring. And it's crazy town. You guys would be boggled amount of planning and stuff that goes into all this. And you try to plan for the future too. That's even more crazy. But again, I'll end my rant because I could go on for days talking. And until next time, again, I'm trying some different things. Not sure if this is a path or a different channel I want to go on AV technology, networking side. I do a lot of networking. I do a lot of AV as well. That's my main job, not working on cars. My main job is actually the technology field. And it's totally up to you. I generally don't film installs on the residential side. A lot of those clients, they're more on the, I don't know, it's just I don't like doing it. I sometimes ask and take pictures and things. I take a lot of pictures, but I don't do a lot of video doing the installs, which maybe in the future I'll do if the clients let me do it. Again, until next time, guys, just let me know if you like this video, and we'll go from there.